Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar that is also staged here in the conference center in Vancouver, and will be about the Italian Cleantech solutions, circular economy, and renewable energy opportunities in Canada. My name is Marco Saladini, and I'm the Trade Commissioner responsible for offices of the Italian Trade Agency, a governmental agency in Canada. So we are here, and one could wonder why the Italian Trade Agency is at this very beautiful and very exciting event here in Vancouver, Globe Forum. We are here to let everybody know that Italy has solutions, has know-how, has research, scientific research, has opportunities to collaborate with Canada in the environmental arena. And so how do we do this? We do organize a pavilion in the Hub Hall at the conference center. We organize 3 events, pitching session, webinar, only online on the 15th of February. And we organize this webinar that has a nice, wonderful lineup that will come up later. Let me say just a few words about the stage, to set the stage for this seminar. First of all, we want to bring content and trade at the same time, so we want to enhance Italy's reputation as a powerhouse for environmental innovation. We do that because we are convinced that there is common ground for collaborations, and there is business to do, but also ideas and research to produce. And so we want to do it in an integrated way between the 2 areas, academia and research, and also practical applications of research, technology, and eventually, of course, products and equipment and services, engineering services. So we see that there is a strong case for collaboration, business case as well, also because the federal Canadian government has planned to spend 100 billion Canadian dollars in investment for climate action in the next few years. And we think that several policy measures, major policy measures, are clearly signaling support for transition to clean energy. And these measures range from tax credits to tax reductions on investments in clean energy through investment vehicles to a lot of other specific incentives that we won't have the time to discuss today, but that pave the way for interaction and also for establishing companies here in order to take advantage of these incentives, which are mostly given to Canadian companies. So we think that the private sector is also investing in clean technologies, with some estimates suggesting that investment amounts might have well quadrupled between 2018 and 2022, and only in the area of venture capital structures have reached 1.4 billion Canadian dollars in 2022. So just in that area, the average transaction size has reached 26 million Canadian dollars. And another thing that has been observed is that venture capitalists have preferred to engage late in the life of an investment, while they're not very involved in seed capital and early stage transactions. And this leads us back to the idea that public sector programs and investment vehicles are more commonly operating at the early stages of these transactions, of these investments. Another figure that I find very interesting is that there is an estimate that the contribution made to the Canadian gross domestic product by products and processes related to environment and clean technologies is worth over 70 billion Canadian dollars a year, or 3% of the entire Canadian GDP. So it's not a marginal sector. It's a sector that has that is showing a significant contribution to the economy. And this amount, according to those estimates, is divided almost equally between environmental goods and services, so electricity, renewables from renewable sources, or nuclear energy production as well, biofuels, primary goods on the other side. So waste management and remediation services. And the other 50% is represented by clean technology goods and services, which bring together manufactured goods, scientific and research and development, construction and support services. So these two big branches are both moving 3% of the entire Canadian GDP. This is very remarkable, I believe. And the provinces that contribute most to those results are Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia. Might be expected the first two, but the third one is very, very important, and also explains probably why we are here in Vancouver today and not somewhere else, let's say. There is a great deal of information available through public sources, also for what concerns importations and exportations and each of the sectors that compose the environment production industry. But even from these first few facts that I mentioned, facts and figures, I mean, it's pretty much apparent that there is a big opportunity in Canada for traders, for manufacturers, and for researchers that are active in this, that can be considered not one industry, but a cross-cutting range of sectors and ways of doing things, after all. I mean, so best practices. We would like, as the Italian Trade Agency, to be considered by all those involved as a liaison between Canadian and Italian companies and other economic organizations. So while we mostly assist Italian companies in entering new markets, we definitely can be of service also to Canadian companies and academia in locating a provider or any other kind of economic or scientific counterpart in Italy. And we're also active in investment attraction towards Italy, so we support also bidding on public sector's contracts. So we believe that we can be helpful on both sides of the bilateral relation. And today I would also like to mention two people that are keen in this effort and are here with us today. One is Gustavo Di Chiara, who is our trade analyst in charge of environment protection, and the other one is Maria Elena Lanzafame, to whom I will shortly hand over the floor. And she's our representative in Vancouver in this nice little office that we just opened in May of 2023. So I would like to encourage everyone listening here and from home to let us know about your needs and wants so that we can help you achieve them timely and hopefully with an overall positive impact on your activities, but also, of course, on the environment, a cause that we deeply are concerned and care for. Thank you for your attention, and enjoy this exciting seminar, and to you, Maria Elena. Thanks.
Thank you, Marco, and welcome all to Vancouver. Welcome the speakers, and I wanted to welcome you all. Let's start with Claudia Alessio. She's a city strategist for the Circle Cities program of Circle Economy Foundation, and she has gained a lot of experience throughout North America and South America, helping urban change makers tackle themes of waste, energy, and emission through the lens of the circular economy. She's particularly promoting and collaborating in a very important flagship project that is the Circularity Gap Report. As we say, if we cannot measure, we cannot fix it. So this is the very first instrument to measure the level of the state of the art of circular economy in the world. And they presented in COP28 their project about financing to close the circularity gap. And as a city strategist, she's collaborating with many cities in Canada. Actually, she's collaborating with the city of Toronto and Montreal and Richmond, that is where the airport is located. So she's starting to become a little bit Canadian, and we're happy to know that. And I will ask her after to introduce the project about the PDA, the Project Development Assistance, that is inside the European Union. And you presented this project in Ecomondo, that is another huge event of Cleantech, that is one of the biggest events in Europe for sure, and in Italy, and we participate as well with ICE in Italy. So Claudia, I would like a little bit for you to set up the stage of this panel today, and so I'm gonna ask you a few questions, and you're gonna take the time to reply, and then we eventually gonna go more deep into that. So I would like to know from you, Claudia, from your experience, why do we need a circular approach to the energy transition, and what are the challenges that the circular economy can help with, and what business innovation are already operating in the circular economy space for renewable? So the stage is yours. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you, Maria Elena, and thank you for the Italian Trade Commission for inviting us here. Indeed, I'm a city strategist for Circular Economy Foundation. We are mainly a think tank, an impact-driven organization that tries to answer all these questions. We mainly work with businesses, nations, but especially with cities, so that's my team. And we want to indeed equip them with practical and scalable solutions to put the circular economy from theory to action. And these are one of the our focus areas, so we want to try and see why the circular economy is important also within other sustainability agendas, like the energy transition. So if I can move maybe to the next slide, yes. Well, we do in fact believe that circularity is needed in the energy transition, and today I wanted to set a bit the scene to the why, and we'll see what kind of challenges the circular economy actually can help with. Well, most nations are actually looking at energy efficiency and renewable energy as the way to achieve net zero emissions. However, it's not a silver bullet, because indeed, I mean, Italy also has set a renewable energy target of 70% by 2030, and Canada as well wants a net zero electricity grid by 2035. However, there will be a material requirement for making sure that we have the infrastructure that we need to have all these renewable energy in place, and for also energy efficiency improvement. So this can actually lead to an increase in demand for critical materials, and also an increase in waste generation. And also the Financial Times has estimated that the renewable energy transition and the energy efficiency improvements can only deliver 55% of the greenhouse gas emission reduction that we need to limit global warming below 2 degrees Celsius. The other 45% reduction that we need is actually from embodied emissions, so scope 3, you want to call it, and these are emissions related to how we produce and consume goods, like cars, food, textiles, but especially also the energy equipment, so the material needed to construct wind, solar, and batteries. So that's why it's crucial to apply circular thinking also to the energy transition. And let's also first say what we define a circular economy. Well, to understand what circularity is, we also need to understand how our current economic system operates. We call what we're normally now operating in a linear economy, because we follow what is called take, make, waste pattern. So we extract raw materials, we transform them into products, we use them, and then we discard them as waste. And in this economic system, we create value by selling as many products as possible. In a circular economy, instead, resources are maintained to their highest potential by being refurbished, reused, and recycled. So this is what actually can deliver the 45% emission reduction that we need to limit global warming. And that's why we need to combine the energy transition with the circular transition too. But what is the current status of circularity in the world? Well, as Maria Elena mentioned, we do measure this every year, and through our circularity gap report. And in the latest data available is for 2023, when we calculated that the world is currently 7.2% circular. So that means that only 7.2% of materials that we use are actually cycled back into the economy. It's, the bad news is that 2 years before, in 2021, the world was 8.6% circular. So circularity is actually going down because we are increasing the amount of resources that we're using every year. There is a good side of things, though. The Circularity Gap report also calculated that by adding circular solutions to the nationally determined contribution that are at the heart of the Paris Agreement, we can actually limit global warming to the 2 degrees Celsius. So by basically adding energy transition targets and renewable energy targets to circular economy solution and a circular economy agenda, we can make sure that we are meeting societal needs, but using 30% less materials that will keep us within climate change target and climate action. This mainly means also that there will be other benefits like less land use, less pollution, and less energy use as well. And to answer some of the questions that were posed to me by Maria Elena, there are 2 main challenges that circularity can help us with in the context of the energy transition. One is raw material extraction, because indeed, as I mentioned before, to build all the energy equipment that we will need new materials. Some of it is also, a big part of it, a significant part of it is rare metals and other earth materials. And for example, here I have a graph that basically shows that the Netherlands has a target of actually energy production set for 2030 that could require between 2.4 and 3.2 million tons of metals. And this can also be, by 2050, could quadruple. If, for example, Italy or Canada had these targets, which, I mean, they're kind of similar, we would actually incur in a big shortage of these materials. So we need to rethink how, which direction we wanna go to make sure that all the targets that we're setting and that were set by the Paris Agreements are feasible and achievable. The second challenge is definitely the one of waste generation, because of course, the more we set to produce renewable energy, the more equipment we will need, and the more waste will be created. This is also new type of waste. In this case, for example, in Italy, but also in Canada and in Europe in general, waste from energy equipment is still not a problem because we haven't exhausted the lifespan of this equipment. But it will become an increasing problem. In this case, as you can see, the waste generation from photovoltaics is expected to increase by 3,000%, from wind energy to 100%, and from energy storage and mobility, so like batteries, 600%. And this is, of course, new waste, but there are also other challenges because it's difficult to process it. It's often composite materials, so multiple materials in one product. There are sometimes hazardous substances, and also there are low concentration of valuable materials. Also, the equipment is not really designed with end of life in mind. Think about wind farms offshore. They're very hard to reach, very hard to maintain, very hard to build as well. And especially in Canada, there is also lack of recycling capacity for batteries. And this, in my work, has also constituted a challenge because cities, for example, have targets to electrify their fleet of cars, but also buses. And all those batteries don't find a way to be processed at the end of life. And they are an hazardous waste type. So there are many things that we still need to consider when moving and pushing for a renewable energy transition. The circular economy can help with some of these challenges, mainly via the 3 principles, recycle, reuse, reduce. In this case, for recycling, there is a clear opportunity. The disposal and recycling market for solar and wind equipment is actually expected to be worth upwards of 360 million by the end of this year. And it will not only be about this type of waste, but also new types of waste, as for example, we decommission oil and gas rigs. So there will also be waste coming from the fossil fuel industry. And in Canada, as we mentioned, there is lack of these solutions, especially for solar panels. Photovoltaics, for example, are considered as hazardous waste, and very little is recycled in Canada. And Italy, as well as other European countries, are showing that it's possible to change this trend. For example, I have here an example of Tialpi that actually is already demonstrating that it is possible to recover 100% of the weight of solar panels. Another circular solution is definitely to reuse or to stretch the lifetime of energy assets so that we need less materials, less new materials to begin with. In this case, we have many companies here showing their solutions because they are not only committed to engineering excellence, but they also want to provide durable and easy to maintain assets and equipment so that all renewable energy systems can last longer. And they are actually already forming some valuable partnerships in Canada, so I invite you also to go visit them, and we have some in the room already here. And then last but not least, actually this is the imperative in the circular economy, is about reducing. So we need to conserve energy and use less energy. On the domestic side of things, this is very relevant for cities. So we need to kind of construct energy efficient communities. Sorry Group, another company here, innovates already in this direction through building energy management systems, but also integrated models for smart cities. And on the industrial side of things, waste heat also is something that should be looked at more, because in many industrial processes, there is a part of the energy input that is lost as residual heat, but it can be reused, and via, of course, like different kind of equipment, it can maybe be used to heat homes via district heating. So there are some companies here that produce heat pumps and all that equipment that is needed to build this kind of infrastructure. And on the European level, there was also consortia, C-Heat, that looked into how we can use waste heat to the best way and how they can help cities become more sustainable. And last but not least, indeed, I wanted to also give a perspective in terms of jobs, because for all of this, we will need workers. We will need different types of skills. We will need different types of jobs, because both for the energy and renewable transition, we'll need new jobs. So new jobs will be created. Some jobs will need to be reallocated. So for example, people that were first building offshore oil rigs now will need to build wind turbines. And some jobs will be lost. So we need to make sure that we are reallocating in a circular way also jobs that will need to find new ways instead of being lost, being reallocated to the new jobs that will be created. And in this case, of course, it will be through upskilling and reskilling the workforce so that we can make sure that no one is left behind in the transition. And I have an anecdote on this because I've interviewed once a company in Scotland, and they're doing just this. So they actually used the local workforce that was first building oil rigs to actually decommission them to salvage materials that then could be used to build wind turbines instead. And what they basically said is that if people knew how to build it, they also knew how to dismantle it. So they seemingly used the same people to do two different kind of jobs. And to conclude, I hope I answered most of the questions. I wanted to kind of inspire you to take a bit of a more material-based perspective on the renewable energy transition, because it's something that is often overlooked. We do a lot of awareness raising because we kind of need to move away from a carbon tunnel vision that dominates a lot of the policy agenda and international goal setting, and add the circular economy into the mix alongside the energy agenda, because it can help us solve a few of the challenges. And that's a quote I also love, like, no one framework or priority is intended to stand alone or address every problem in the world. So we kind of like need to find synergies, and I think we'll see also how these synergies can be found in the next presentations. But to conclude, I wanted to just say the energy transition will not be enough, and circularity needs to be added into the mix. And I think that was it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. And maybe just to conclude before I pass the mic back to Maria Elena, she actually mentioned one project that I'm following in Europe as part of the Circular City and Region initiative. Is a project development assistance initiative, so we help projects develop further, circular projects develop further so that they can or more easily access funding. And that basically relates to the fact that as with the renewable energy transition, some of the solutions still need to develop a little bit further, and they need a bit more seed funding to be bankable and then scale up as much as, for example, renewable energy solutions have done in the past. So the European Commission is providing funding for different consortia to help projects develop in terms of business planning, financials, but also optimizing circularity so that they can access both private and public funding in Europe. And this is a best practice that I would be happy to share. It's still ongoing, and the project will end in 2025. So it's still an opportunity if you have a circular idea to apply and be part of Circular Invest.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Ivan, to mention a few of our Italian company presenting their Cleantech solution here. And I would like to introduce our next contributor and speakers, Mr. Bob Paul. Mr. Bob Paul, welcome, even if you're just making a short trip from Victoria, actually from Kelowna, so in British Columbia, so you're close, but you're very, very welcome. And Bob Paul is the principal consultant at E5 Solution, and is a consulting firm that is born in 2019 after a long experience in the government of BC. And his consultant address wasted resource and educate on the implication for climate change. So Bob is collaborating and co-create opportunities with government, academia, business leaders, not-for-profit organization to find solution for circular economy and for new business models. So, and we have worked as Italian Trade Commission with Bob on a specific focus on wastewater, and so is a dear contributor to Italian Trade Commission work during these years. And we're very proud to have you as our advisor and contributor today. We would like to ask a few questions as well about what are the key factors that drive partnership and collaboration in the circular economy, and what opportunities you think to collaborate can be activated in Canada for the Italian business in the circular economy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Maria, for your presentation. Hopefully we'll build on that. So to answer these questions in my presentation, I've got about 5 slides to go through to try to highlight the opportunity for Italian companies to address the issues in Canada, all the way from housing and clean tech and beyond, and in between, so many opportunities for companies to bring solutions here that we don't have, or they might be developing in early kind of startup companies. So again, this is just an introductory slide of the partnership and the collaboration that we're doing here between Canada and Italy, and I'm proud to be working with everyone, the Trade Ministry and other officials to try to make things happen and make investments happen. So first of all, we're here at Globe, and the theme of Globe is regenerative economy, right, or future that we wanted. So I define, and this is something we must pay to what is really regenerative, and I define it as a regenerative economy, basically maximizing on using waste biomass that is produced from current production processes, forestry, agriculture, municipal, and then combining that with supplementary feedstocks that can be grown as energy crops or bio-based inputs into making products, right? Substitute for plastics, you know. So you have a good understanding that, and then the potential also from those materials to extract energy, right? And renewable energy systems. And so essentially the point I want to make is, like, working on understanding this is that, you know, nature already has a circularity plan. We just need to understand it more and make some investments around it with technologies. And it's through research and those research and technologies that evolve from that will help create more regenerative solutions. And then in the Globe Conference, we see the 4 themes. So if we apply regenerative economy to all the 4 themes, there's a lot of economic potential and opportunity for Italian companies to focus in on just those 4 things and other things related to that. So from the bigger picture, the relationship for Canada and Italy in trade is huge. It's, you know, part of the G7, right? And the two-way trade that we're seeing, the numbers are big. It's 11.88 billion between us, and Italy does dominate more on the trade to Canada than the other way around. So you can see that potential is there, and then the potential is even bigger. And so building like these relationships in trade builds trust, certainty, right? When you have these good relationships, so I want to highlight that. And plus we have a good cultural connection already in Canada, in the big cities, and there's opportunity to develop that more. And you know, wine and cheese always helps. And foreign direct investment. So the government of Canada is signaling like they want foreign investment to help solve our low carbon problems, our housing problems, right? So they're highlighting here in, you know, EV battery supply chain, rare earths, right? Wherever we can do it. And the one point I want to make is we can't be just chasing rare earths in, you know, in the primary industries in mining. That's one aspect of it, but it's important to have policies around the world where we recycle our electronics. And I'm proud to say the government of BC is involved in helping launch the recycling of electronics here, because we have a smelter that tested electronics and got all kinds of crazy results in precious metal recovery. And so now we sit strategically positioned to process waste electronics and recover rare earths and other precious metals. So, you know, that's an important thing. And if all countries did that, that would help support the supply chains for the clean transition. And also to highlight hydrogen, we hear about hydrogen a lot, and we can make bio-based hydrogen. We're forming it out of biogas. Lots of opportunity there, and also deeper into science and life sciences, working with you know, Genome BC here, and we have Triumph, and Petro's going to talk a little bit more about that. Space and biomanufacturing, and you know, and also value-added agriculture. So Italy brings a lot of knowledge. Some of you are aware, some you might not be, but you know, in Europe, the 3rd largest economy in the bioeconomy of bioproducts and that. So you know, 330 billion is huge, and so we need to bring that knowledge and expertise and technologies more here. And some of you are here, you're part of that supply chain of that bioeconomy, and but we can do more, definitely. The other thing is to highlight is we also have the CETA framework, Canadian European Trade Agreement, while not fully ratified at the EU end, but Canada has signed on, and we're living by the principles of it. So what that means is we have an opportunity to work together, and I can go to Italy and work over there and help companies, or vice versa. You can come here and do that. So that's a free system to work in, to look at solutions to problems. And obviously we're going to learn more about CDP's business-to-business matching launch a little bit more tomorrow, and it's coming to Canada. They've launched it in other countries, and I think this is a good pipeline to build where you can register yourself in there and be marketed, and other companies find you and start developing business relationships. So just want to highlight that. And then one big announcement that came in the news from the Government of Canada recently was they're joining in with the European Horizon Fund. So leveraging into that is opportunity to do things together between Canada and EU, and Italy's part of the EU. So, and this is, I won't get into the details of it, there's a lot here, but you look at a $95.5 billion fund, right? And there's the cluster areas to focus on, and some of the things I touched on are in these cluster areas, and these statements are from essentially the internet open information. This is what the Government of Canada is saying. So you read that and you try to, okay, well, let's see how we can leverage that and create new partnerships and develop projects. So Government of Canada priorities, very clear. Housing is a big issue, and I'll be talking a little bit more on the housing stuff tomorrow. And opportunity, not just new housing, but how do we build it faster and quicker, and modular is being talked about. Then the other part is in the renovation side of the housing stock is the supply chain in itself. I'm renovating right now at my home in Kelowna, and believe me, when I go to Home Depot and all that, there's not a lot of Italian stuff I can find. And I know I've seen the Italian stuff when I go to Italy. It's pretty nice, so there's big, huge opportunity to bring it here, right? So, we need to also talk about mentioning the role of AI in all of this. It's going to be huge, and circular economy, we need to collect data, we need to understand it, and that's part of the work like Claudia is doing with the material flows, but we need to put it into centralized systems and let AI do the job and give us some scenarios how we can drive the circular economy forward. So that's, I wanted to highlight that. So the low carbon economy, obviously, across all manufacturing sectors, right? So Canada is a primary resource extractor. So how do we zero out waste in all sectors, right? And make it low carbon with renewable energy systems. And also transmission and energy storage and decentralizing our energy. If you look at the traditional systems today, coming from centralized systems, we need to do it more regionally and locally. And the inputs to make energy is waste feedstocks, right? Or we grow feedstocks that don't compete with food on the land, and that is the new opportunity. So this is a lot of detail here, but the circular economy, regenerative and technical materials. So we talk about regenerative materials, biogenic materials that regenerate themselves, but we also have an economy that has technical materials. So this is side of plastics and rubber, metal, right? We need to do a better job on processing those and uplifting their values. So I list a whole bunch of things for materials, energy, and the most important thing to highlight is the underlying thing is water really transects all this sector. So we're challenged now with water, so we must get smarter in reusing water from capturing in industrial processes, wastewater treatment plants, and not discharging it, right? So there's so much opportunity in that space. And as I mentioned, the CDP business platform and Horizon funds, all this stuff coming together, what we have in Canada with early stage funding of technology through Foresight Canada, there's early startups there, and then how do we leverage that knowledge from here and marry it up with Italian companies to take it to the next step, because we got to get to commercialization quickly on a lot of this stuff. And I'm going to wrap up, that's it, and to kind of, I know I don't talk about in the presentation about challenges. The challenges really relate to is building trust, and when we have Canada and Italy trying to come together is a huge time zone difference, and trying to communicate on opportunities is there, but the time zone does make a difference. But if you put in the effort, you can find the companies you can work with. It's used. So the challenges to overcome is just is finding niche, interesting collaborations to work on where the skill set is really strong, and then look at the funding programs we talked about and working together to access those funds. And the challenge really is the know-how and the knowledge of where the money is and how you write it up to get a project developed, right? So that would be, I say, a challenge. And then there's in the ecosystem of the circular economy, yes, the people here generally understand it, but we do need to do a lot more in educating society on what this is, because we've been living in a linear system for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much for your contribution and for pointing out the challenge and the opportunities, and to even mention some of our partners in this global adventure like CDP Business Matching. We invite you all to participate tomorrow, because this is going to be another interesting one with the green building as well. On the other side, as we remember, there is Buildex as well happening in the ground floor as well. And to mention the e-contribution in the measurement even, and this is something that I want to reconnect with our next speaker, Mr. Pietro Giampa. Pietro Giampa, we're honored to have you, happy, a representative for the science and academia scene of Vancouver and all Canada, with proud Italian roots. And we thank you and the Embassy of Italy in Canada, Professor Costanza Conti. She helped us bring you to us today. And Pietro is a physicist, is a particle astrophysics researcher. Is such a big word, I don't even know how to pronounce. A Triumph Laboratory in Vancouver, and is teaching at UBC and SFU here in Vancouver. So he's sharing his time between university and laboratory. And most of his time, as Mr. Pietro liked to say, is dedicated to shedding light on the dark side of the universe, with a particular emphasis on how dark matter interacts with the rest of the universe. And as a member of the Science and Technology Department at Triumph, is at the forefront of the cutting edge technology. And that's why I want to make you some question about what one of the innovation and technology in the renewable energy that can lead to a dramatic change in the destination net zero, according to you, and how your specific field of research can help business to make the transition in the circular economy.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you very much for the organizers. And to the two speakers prior to me. I don't have any slides, but I'm just going to try and elaborate on those questions and follow up. I'll take a very academic approach to this, and I want to go back to something that Claudia mentioned, that we got to get out of that carbon tunnel vision. And the way I see it, or the way I interpret it, especially when I talk to some of my colleagues as well, it's really through innovation. That is a key component, in my opinion, to reach net zero. And to push towards a circular economy. So when I look back from my field, starting from the second point that you asked, Maria, it's really about looking at, when I think about innovation really is looking about the expertise that you have, the kind of technology that you've been able to develop, and how you can translate that to a real world application. The reality is that in the world of physics, specifically particle physics, that's been booming, I would say, in the last 20 years, there's been an incredible amount of expertise developed and HQP training, so highly qualified personnel training on key technologies that can play, I think, a significant role in our future. Historically, however, academia has been fairly tunnel vision in their own focus for fundamental science, but really we're now trying to explore and expand more venues and see how we can readapt some of the technology that we build. Innovation per se, it's already a global phenomena, in the sense that, as Bob highlighted before, you really need support and funding level across nations to do this. And so partner with nations like Italy becomes very standard or very basics in that, and we already have strong partnerships already in some of the technology development that we do. And so readapting that becomes really key. A couple of examples of technologies that we have already pushed towards renewable. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is our capabilities of designing and developing silicon-based photosensors or chips, which are now integrated in pretty much all our daily lives, from cell phones to self-driving cars. And the question really for us was always, we understand the underlying physics to an infinitesimal precision. how can we use that knowledge to reduce the power consumption in these devices while maintaining the throughput? So can we consume less and less energy and while maintaining a product that doesn't compromise on all the comforts that we have come accustomed to over the last few years, let's say. So this is something, for instance, speaking of the partnership that we have in Italy, that we work, for instance, with companies like Fondazione Bruno Kessler in Italy to really fabricate and push this design and work with a local company, US company, and European company to then find applications for these lower and lower power devices. There are also opportunities to work with direct renewable energies frontiers. So there's a lot of, especially here locally in Vancouver, there's a lot of interest in fusion and create a path towards renewable energy that way. Triumph is partnering with a local company called General Fusion. They have a good technique for generating the power, but what they lack of is their ability to monitor and control, let's say, from an observation point of view, their throughput. And that's really where the expertise in what we call subatomic particle physics really comes in. We had all the technology to do this monitoring for them. And so together we enter a partnership with the Canadian government to merge the two streams and try to push our innovation and our new tech with the company to help them push forward. And we're finding more and more partnership the same way. Another thing that I think it's important from the academic level is every time you have to start, every time you want to reconstruct a new system, you want to do it better. So this is a conversation we had so earlier, for instance, with Bob. One example is also water. Have access to clean water in a way, or being able to test water locally so that you don't have to create infrastructure or systems that can deliver in a high energy cost effect. And so this is, for instance, some of the technology that the world of physics has spent years perfectioning to infinitesimal precision, again, because that's kind of the little things we do. And we're able to provide, for instance, a cost solution for water purity and water monitoring for indigenous community. Locally, again, try to rebuild a new structure around the system. So I guess really the point I'm trying to make is that when I look at the future, I think that the future is really bright, even though some of these accords kind of puts us in a bad mood. I think renewable energies, solutions, and circular economy are reachable, but the angle from innovation has to be there. And the academic world has a lot of this expertise. And we already have an infrastructure that forces us to work internationally with it. And so to me, I'm excited to see how we can, we just see the start of this. And I give you some example about my personal institution interacts with local company and companies in Italy. And we try to do that across other countries as well. But we're really just at the beginning. I think there's an incredible amount of expertise. There's an incredible amount of technology that's been developed already and knowledge there. I'm very excited to see how we can do as the academic world interacts more and more with the, let's say, corporate world to try to find new and better solutions to get out of that tunnel vision that Claudia mentioned before.
Thank you so much, Pietro. I actually have, I wanted you to make, to shed a little light about the quantum technology that we were speaking earlier with you about how Italy is leading a little bit the way on this.
Absolutely. That actually brings me to a good point that I think I should have made, is that when we think about innovation and we think about what's going to change our path to renewables, the reality is that sometimes it's the innovation or the new idea and technology that you didn't expect that change your path. So quantum technology is a good example. When you think about quantum technology, building quantum computers and kind of evolving the structure of computing across the world, you don't necessarily think of that as a direct impact to renewable, but in fact it is. And Italy is an incredible example of a country that has been on the forefront of development of quantum technology and quantum computing through strong support of, for some bizarre reason, of the Institute of Nuclear Physics of all ages. But one thing that, for instance, quantum computing can give us is, or computing capability can increase. We can couple AI system, as Bob mentioned before. We can do city planning more efficiently But also from a consumption point of view, if we break through the wall of quantum computing, if you think about the picture of how those computer servers at Google look like, this massive warehouse of servers and servers that spit out lots of heat, consume a lot of power, if you can boil it down to a tiny computer that sits in a room and uses just a 20-volt outlet, that's really a game changer, even just in consumption of what we do. So as I mentioned, thank you for bringing that up, Maria. I think quantum technology is a good example that sometimes is the tech that you don't think it's directly coupled to something like, oh, this doesn't filter bad stuff out of our product, or it doesn't produce new heavy element, but it can change the game in many ways that would enable us to speed through that process towards circular economy. And I think that's something that when we think about innovation, I guess the point I'm trying to make is keep an open mind, because sometimes it's the discovery that you don't expect that will change your path.
Thank you. So great to have you all, and I invite you, if you have any question, we have a short time for some questions. So if anyone has some specific question, I know we were discussing earlier with one of our companies, Sori Group, that has a lot of expertise in the energy sector, and actually I hope you're going to connect soon with Pietro, and I invite everyone to connect with Bob and Paula and Claudia, to bring up your solution and to try and find a way to connect with Canadian opportunities. I think that's all, so we can wrap up. I just want to remind the event that we have tomorrow on CDP. And so I invite everyone to register online, and then to join the session of the company tomorrow at 11, the pitch session on the main stage, and you're going to find out everything about our company presenting at Globe. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you to the public that is online, and thank you, everyone.